What's up, y'all? We're here with our first official ever Chefs Without Restaurant podcast. I'm Andrew,
And I'm Chris.
and we're here to talk about Chefs Without Restaurants and ourselves, so you can get to know us on this first official episode.
Super excited for this. We're going to get into some of the questions that we're going to be asking guests, but I think for this first episode, Andrew and I are just going to kind of keep it kind of light and riff and maybe interview each other a little bit so we can let you guys get to know who's who and what's what.
Yeah, you guys can really get into our souls and learn us.
So I guess let's kind of jump in. Do you want to interview each other?
Yeah, let's do this. So we're going to start out every episode with a guest intro. Y'all are welcome and updates rather, and then we'll do a little guest intro where we're going to, basically just introduce the guest. So why don't you start and introduce yourself?
So my name's Chris Spear. I'm the chef and owner of Perfect Little Bites, a personal chef business based out of Frederick, Maryland, which is in the DC metro region. I started this kind of as a side hustle about 10 years ago, and as of last week, I've been doing this for 3 years now. And then I guess it's been about 2 years I've been involved with this Chefs Without Restaurants project that I started, which I thought was going to be like 5 people that I knew personally. And we're going to have a little crew of people that help support each other and have resources and stuff. And to my surprise, it kind of blew up. And I think if you're looking at all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, everything, we're probably hovering around 1,000 people between both chefs and customer followers and stuff. And Andrew was one of those people who I connected with rather early on in the process. So, what about you, man?
Maybe like halfway through at this point. I joined the group like almost a year ago.
Well, I think I was the first time I met you, I was doing the food for the Frederick Wine Festival.
Oh, yeah, it was before that.
And that's when I got to know you kind of. You hadn't really been a member of the group, but you showed up and helped save the day by providing pizza for the wine fest.
Yeah. Um, so I guess I'll take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name's Andrew Wilkinson. I'm the owner of Pizza Llama, also here in Frederick, Maryland. We've been in business for about 4 years now, or we're in our fourth year of business, I should say. Um, we're a mobile wood-fired pizza operation and caterer, and we just recently launched our food truck to help us with, some more steady, regular business and help us with the seasonality of the business. Like we said, I've been a member of the restaurant or Chefs Without Restaurants community for almost a year, and for me, it's been pretty awesome and helpful. I'm hoping that this podcast can help us grow the following a bit and help people out as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really love about it is, we have a pretty active Facebook group. And one of the resources that I take advantage of is finding people to help with gigs. So I have no employees on a regular basis. Especially now coming into the holiday season, I'm doing some bigger events and need extra set of hands. And Andrew has helped me out, I think, 3 times now, just in the past couple of weeks doing events. It's great to have someone who's a solid chef who can come and just hang out with you and help you cook for a day. And then the next day he goes off and does his own thing, or he actually can leave his truck with some of his other talented cooks and he can come help me with a gig. So being able to help with each other's jobs, I think, has been one of my favorite parts of this thing.
Yeah, it's been super fun and refreshing for me too, to like get out of the making pizza in a mobile in the mobile
in the truck.
In the truck and the mobile operation is like not mundane or like there's not really a day to day anyway, but just getting out with you and doing some new stuff and like learning how you work and maybe cooking dishes that I've never cooked before and dealing with a different type of clientele has been really cool and kind of inspiring for me. So,
and now I just need to get on the pizza truck and start slinging some pizza.
Yeah, anytime you can come and stretch some doughs, top some pizzas, and burn them in my oven. Wood fired.
The burnt crust is the best part.
I think so too. I have to tell people that when they look like occasionally you get a well done pizza. We don't really serve like burnt pizzas, but sometimes you have like a side that's a little burnt and well done.
No burnt pizzas.
People are like, they give me this like, they give me this look, and I'm like, that's flavor. Okay. If they really complain, I'll make them a new pizza. But no problem. I try to get people to like embrace a little bit of char.
Yeah, that's the only part my son wants. Like the first thing he does is grabs the pie and starts popping those crispy blistered parts off and eating them, and he could care less about the rest of the pizza.
I'm always trying to like figure out how much char I can handle. Like if I think we burnt a pizza, I might keep it for us, and then be like, how much is too much?
It's like the burnt ends on barbecue, right? Like that's also the best part.
The
Like a nice
best part.
brisket,
Oh
you
my
get those
God.
burnt ends. Like
Yeah.
you're royalty if they save you the burnt ends.
I think a critical part of a burnt pizza that can still be consumable and delicious is that you have to have like a certain level of like creaminess and not burntness within the cheese. So the cheese has to still be like creamy and maybe oil, like have some oil dripping down the crust, like. And I think like a nice salt level is really important because that charcoaly like that carbon is just kind of like cancels out
Yeah.
flavor, you
And now I
know.
want some pizza, and you didn't bring any today.
Well, you can catch us tomorrow. We'll be right down the street. So what I want to get into next is a question that I'm kind of excited to ask people, and it's like an open-ended question. It's basically, what are you currently cooking? And this goes for, you know, at home, what do you enjoy cooking? At work, what are you cooking? Like, what's a new recipe on your menu? Or it can be in life, like or in life or business, what are you cooking up? Like, what's cooking? What do you
Yeah.
got cooking right now?
What do I got cooking right now? Well, super seasonal stuff, very fall, wintry. Actually, tonight I'm making a celery root scordalia, which is normally it's potatoes that are boiled and then pureed up with some garlic oil, a lot of lemon. Is really nice. So I'm doing that with celery root tonight at a customer's house. Then I'm going to be doing some scallops on top of that, some bacon, and some herb oil. But I don't have set menus, so every day my menu is different, and I kind of cook a combination of what a customer has told me they like, and then some things that I like. So that's one of those dishes people don't necessarily order when they see it on a menu because they have no idea what it is.
What?
Scordalia. I think it's Scandinavian, right?
Okay.
Um, and oh man, does it have? It has some kind of nut in it traditionally. I think I've been using Marcona almonds, so I just peel and boil some celery root in salted water, and then take it out, strain it, and then put it in the food processor with some garlic oil I've made and a lot of fresh lemon juice, some salt and pepper, and that's a really nice base for a lot of things. But I like and the toasted Marcona almonds. And once it's pureed, I'm gonna just sear some scallops and put them on top. That's what I'm
Sounds
currently
delicious.
gonna be cooking today. As I've said on other podcasts, I love Mexican food. I'm super obsessed with it. Making all kinds of salsas, making homemade tortillas.
I love making sauces. Um,
What are you cooking?
so I'll say that my favorite thing to cook at home is fried rice, hands down, and
Interesting.
and breakfast.
I wasn't expecting that.
I freaking love making fried rice and like using so many random different things that you wouldn't expect, or all the things that you would expect.
Leftover
Fried
pizza
rice is
toppings.
maybe. I think I've had cheese in fried rice before. It's definitely weird, and I wouldn't do it again. So anyway, that's what I'm cooking in the house for my family. At work, I'm working on expanding this food truck menu, and it's kind of been stumping me to be honest. Um, but I'm about to make your typical pumpkin soup later today with a friend and probably future guest Thomas O'Hara.
Ooh, exciting.
So we're gonna be making some soup today.
I'm making squash soup tonight too.
I got a kabocha squash on my brain. He said pumpkin. Maybe he'll bring a pumpkin too. I don't know. We'll see. So that's what I'm going to cook today. Uh, I guess I can sneak peek you into the menu. We're definitely looking at expanding pizza options. I'm working on a square pie recipe right now, sort of similar to a Detroit style, but I'm not trying to like adhere to any type of already existing style ever. So it's a square. And then cooking right now for me is this podcast. I'm trying to get this thing cooking. I think it's going to be really fun and a neat opportunity for us going forward.
Yeah, that's definitely cooking for me. I mean, I'm trying to balance marketing my own business, Perfect Little Bites, and doing a lot there. But this Chefs About Restaurants project is taking a lot of time in a good way, and I'm going to be doing a lot of promoting of that, especially with the podcast.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about our introduction into food, whether it be, or maybe just like keep it brief, but like obviously we're both pretty passionate about food. So like, when was the first time you were like, wow, food's awesome to cook, maybe not just eat, in your life? Like, what was your first introduction to a food industry job? And we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a little fat kid. I
Me too.
love to eat.
Me too.
Um, but I've said this before, I'm really thankful my mom stayed home with me until I went into middle school. So that meant we had a dinner on the table every night. I grew up in the 80s when a lot of families had both parents working. There was a lot of fast food, a lot of microwave foods, and we didn't really have that. So every Saturday, my mom made a grocery list, and I had to go grocery shopping with her, and we bought a lot of stuff that was on sale, and then we just make recipes based on that. My dad worked at Sears in retail, so he had a lot of nights and a lot of weekends he was working. So a lot of times it was just my mom and myself. So I spent time hanging out with her in the kitchen, and it wasn't always fancy. It was hamburger helper sometimes, things like that. But we had a home cooked meal on the table every night, and I love to eat. So I started taking cooking classes in middle school, and then in high school. My first job was working at Burger King, as Dane Cook calls it, the BK Lounge. Um, but I think fast food is super awesome, and it's anyone who's worked in fast food, I have a respect for them because you learn customer service, you learn speed, you learn a lot of things, and I would never look down on anyone who worked in fast food.
Yeah, it's nice
How about you in food?
to like you, I was a little chubby kid, and sort of similarly, always had, you know, a nice home cooked meal on the table coming home, and then, but I would say that, like, honestly, like, my mom's cooking now is way better than it used to be, I think. She's definitely, like, evolved as a cook, and not that she was bad before, but it was kind of like your typical, like, suburban meal. Like, there was nothing, I mean, she's a pretty good cook, but I don't know. We
Yeah,
always got like nice little treats. Like every now and then she'd make shrimp and grits, and that's like one of my favorite home cooked meals.
I never had any fancy food like that, really. I mean, we would do steak, but
Yeah, and then I like have a super love for breakfast. I was fortunate enough to have my dad home every weekend, and like either on Saturday or Sunday, it'd be like French toast, pancakes, waffles, like one of those in the rotation. And he might be better at some than others, but it was always just a nice thing. Like, and it wasn't like, oh, just like everybody sit down and eat. It was like it'd be like 3 hours the whole morning. He's just like cooking pancakes or waffles, and like you come down. Like I would wake up maybe at 10 some mornings, and
so is
he would have already ate, but he'll be like, "Here you go. Like you want a waffle? Boom." Like it's like ready to go the whole morning. It's almost like our kitchen was like a little breakfast diner. Like it's
so is
perfect.
breakfast his jam? Because I think this is funny. My dad, all he could cook or wanted to cook was breakfast. Like we did breakfast for dinner a lot when he was cooking, but he didn't really cook anything else. So like, was your dad just a breakfast guy?
Mm, I would say that's what he did best. He's not just a breakfast guy, but that's definitely what he was doing best.
When people talk to me about like my love for cooking, a little backstory: my mom had a disc removed. She had disc surgery, and I don't know. I want to say I'm like 12 years old, so she was in bed literally for I think about 3 months. So for that time, I actually took over cooking all the dinners for the family
How old were
because
you?
I want to say 12.
Whoa.
Especially because my dad worked a lot of nights. I mean, there were days, I'd say half of the work week, 3 nights a week, my dad was at work. So if we were going to have dinner, I had to cook it. Um,
What were you cooking?
oh, I don't know. Like I would
Tuna casserole.
tuna casserole. I would bake some pork chops.
We had to do that
Um,
like once a week.
we ate more hamburger helper I think, in those 3 months than we ever did. That wasn't something we normally had, but I could cook up a pound of ground beef and add some of that stuff and do pretty well.
That was a nice treat for us. I didn't really
And now I won't eat it, I think, because of that.
ours would be like home, like we would have the ground beef and then like cook noodles, but it wasn't like the box come out. Maybe a couple times we had that, but
Well, that was my favorite dish, and one of the first things I learned to make. It was a recipe my mom called Greco. I have no idea why it's called that, but it was you cooked up ground beef with some peppers and onions, and then you added creamed corn, canned tomato sauce, canned mushrooms. It had to be canned. I've tried to make this with fresh, and it's not the same. And then you put it in a casserole dish and topped it with cheddar cheese and baked it, and that's still one of my favorite things. And I've tried to make it fancy and sub out green peppers with poblanos and use like maitake mushrooms. For me, the nostalgia, like it just doesn't connect. And I think nostalgia is a big part of food, right? Like
huge.
if I served anyone else that dish, they probably wouldn't think it was great, and I could make a very fancy version that I think would kill. But for me, it just doesn't feel like home, I guess, when I eat a fancy version.
All right, so I have a story about nostalgia and food that I want to tell in a second. But first, I'm gonna finish up the question, which was, what was your introduction to food? And so I got like my little family background you got. So as I was growing up, like middle school and high school, I always really loved. I think I had a pretty open, like non-discriminatory palate. So I was always like super into trying other families' like foods and like going to my friend's house and see what they cook and just like getting that experience. And I loved that. So I think that's where the first time. That's where I like really found that love for food in general. And then my first job experience was at Philly's Cheesesteak Factory here in Frederick, and I was a fry cook, but maybe like once a week I got to be on the pizza line. Actually, the fry cook a lot of times just cooked the pizza because we didn't sell that much pizza, but
Is
I
that is
really enjoyed
and
that.
they're closed now, right?
Yeah, it's roast house now.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess they were
yeah.
open.
So
Like, I'm not from Frederick, if you don't know much about me, but I've been here since 2007, and they were still here when I moved here. But I forgot that used to be Roast House. Big shout out to Roast House Pub, Chef Nico. Nico, if you're listening,
Nico, we're gonna have you on.
we're gonna have you on the show sometime, even though you do have a restaurant.
Yeah, but you can still offer us something. So. Oh yeah, so nostalgia and food. I'm gonna make this quick, but maybe this will be helpful to some people. I don't know. Hopefully nobody hates me for this, but before I was in the food industry, I was in the illicit marijuana trade industry, right? So I ended up getting in trouble for that, and I had to do a little time. Okay, for all you listeners out there, it wasn't, I survived. It wasn't that bad. Not prison, county jail. It's okay. But anyway, like I said before, we had tuna casserole maybe like once a week when I was a kid, and it's not like it's very good. Like it's casserole. Like casserole, this is kind of sucks most of the time. But they also had that like once a month or maybe twice a month as a meal in jail, and it was equally or even more nasty than what we used to make at home. But I would like buy it from people with chips or whatever. Like I would trade people stuff. I don't drink milk like that, so I would trade my milks. And you'd be surprised how many people don't eat fruit in jail. I traded milk for like a week's worth of fruit from like five people, so I was like literally stocked. I lost like probably 30 pounds in jail. But anyway,
This is
back to the point.
amazing.
Back to the point. Uh, you can't even fathom how good it made me feel to eat this shitty tuna casserole in jail because of nostalgia. And it just made me feel like I wasn't, for like 2 seconds, every bite I took was like, am I home? Am I home?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a way to tap into every single customer's nostalgia, that would be a gold mine. But we all have like these very different things. Like I
Hmm.
hate McDonald's, but chicken McNuggets. Like my mom used to take me to McDonald's after soccer practice, and if I go into a McDonald's, there's like a smell about it, and I feel like I'm 7 years old. And if I get a chicken McNuggets with like some of that hot mustard, I can almost be transported back to like Marlboro, Mass, being 7 years old just after soccer. And
Yeah.
it's hard. I try and find a way to tap into the nostalgia of people I've never even met and cook them a meal that can resonate with them.
I just want to put it out there that it won't work for me to tax. I'm free now. Free pizza. I'm free pizza now. So you don't ever give me tuna casserole because it's not gonna work. It's not gonna make me feel nostalgia. It only worked in that one setting. All right. Anyway, moving on. You're welcome for that little story. And we're going to move on to this next question and getting to know our guest, which is what was your career direction prior to, and what was the breaking point for you to pursue your dream in food or whatever they're doing, the people that are interviewing?
Oh, wow. So you shared something really interesting. So I guess I'll share something really interesting that I've never talked about before. I have never worked in a restaurant. I've been in the food world for 27 years. I mean, I guess if you
This is
consider,
good insight
I,
for chefs without restaurants.
I think if you consider Burger King a restaurant. But no, I went
It
to
is.
culinary school. I went to Johnson & Wales. I got a 4-year bachelor's in culinary school. Um, I took on a lot of debt. So I came out of school having to pay $404 a month for 10 years. So think about that. And that was 20 something years ago, and it's way more expensive now. But I came out with a lot of debt. And, you go to work in a restaurant, and that was in 1998. Restaurants wanted to pay me $8 an hour or something like that. And I ended up working in a retirement community because they were offering me $12 an hour and medical benefits and vacation and retirement and everything. So I started doing that. Plus, it was a better work environment. I had every other weekend off. I didn't have to do nights. Um, there's a lot of things I would have done differently in hindsight. Maybe I should have gone work for some important chef or something, but whatever. So that kind of started me on that path. And then I moved to Seattle, Washington, and I really wanted to work in some of the best restaurants. And I did an interview with this guy. I think his name was James Kelly. I don't know. He had a place called the Painted Table, and at the time it was like the best restaurant in the country. And I did a phone interview with him, and he shit on me. And like he told me that he didn't think I had what it took to be a chef and work in a restaurant. And he said, like, if you get out here and you still think that you're up to this, come see me. And it kind of broke me a little bit. So I moved to Seattle,
I
and
think that
then
was why he did it.
maybe, and
Because at least he followed up with like, if you think you're still up for it after I just shit on you, come on here. He doesn't want any like you come in his kitchen soft. He's an old school chef probably.
yeah, definitely.
They're in that kitchen
And his
soft.
and his restaurant went out of business. I don't really know what happened. I think he fell off the map. But so I got out to Seattle, and I ended up working in another retirement community. It was a Jewish run kosher kitchen retirement community. So that just kind of set me on this path of not working in restaurants. And I've since moved all over the country. I moved to Pennsylvania. I worked for IKEA. That'll be a whole nother story at some point. But I was running the food in at their home office in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. So I got to do some cool R&D stuff. We were doing things that we had never that had never been done at other IKEAs across the country, and things are rolling out. And then I moved to Frederick, and once again, I got a job working for Sodexo in contract food. So I took over a big retirement community in here, close to my house, and I was there for 10 years actually. And I ended up we had 4 separate dining venues under me, and we had 100 plus employees in the food service department. So, I was doing that, but I kind of started to not like it after a while. Like it was an okay job with great benefits and stuff, but I wanted to do something else. So I started kind of thinking about how I could do my own restaurant without the cost and crazy overhead and all the stuff that comes with having a restaurant. And for me, that turned into the personal chef gig where I kind of bring the restaurant to you, where I could just show up to a different person's house every day, make the food that I want to make, give them a restaurant experience. I'm bringing my own china and silverware and setting the table, and I'm cooking the food fresh there for them. So it doesn't feel like it's, a catered meal where they're having things served out of chafing dishes that were cooked hours ahead in some kitchen. Really, kind of, I wanted to replace the restaurant experience. So that's a little bit about how I got to where I am.
Very cool. So you may not have had like direct restaurant experience or fine dining, but you have extensive experience in the culinary world, in kitchens, in managing food service. So
Yeah,
I would say that it's not too far off.
And we talked about this a little bit off mic before. I think one of the benefits is then you can kind of form your own path. I think you see a lot of people doing things the same way because there's, every cook, chef who works in a restaurant, there seems to be a way things are done, but then nothing ever changes and everyone's still using the same model. I didn't have a lot of mentors. In contract food, a lot of times you're hired at the top and you have to jump right in. So, you go from, you're maybe a sous chef at one place and then you jump right into being the executive chef at the next place where you're still actually growing and learning and you have to kind of, yeah, you jump right into the operation and lead a team maybe when you don't have the experience to do so. So figure out your own way and your own style. So
So keep it real brief because I want to get the master of it. What was your breaking point? And like, I know you started doing some personal chef shit before you left your job, but what was like that breaking point where you were like, all right, I'm done?
the breaking point was that I was given a raise in name only. And that I did that for the last 6 years that I was there, and people would tell me I'm stupid. But I took a promotion, was promised a raise, it never came, and every year it was the carrot that was dangled in front of my face of like, oh well, if you get this on your review, you'll get your raise. And then I would do it, and they'd say, well, oh well, sorry, but like we don't have the money, but do this and you'll get it next year. And that went on and on, combined with the fact that I had some terrible employees I was managing and I was having anxiety at work. I'm getting anxiety talking about this. Like I had a subordinate who, she would do things like tell the other employees that she thought I was having an affair, like totally ungrounded just to create drama. And I'm not about the drama, but I was getting physically sick, like having a lot of medical conditions. And in hindsight, it was 100% stress. And once I realized that, I was like, I need to get out of this toxic environment and stop being around toxic people. And I would rather go make less money working for myself than to work for people who don't respect me, don't pay me what they've promised me, and working for people who are trying to make my life miserable.
Yeah. Good answer. Stress can do a lot of things, including make you start to go bald at 23. And that makes you big too.
So how did you start Pizza Llama?
So, well, my career direction, obviously I said this before, was not even in food. It was in it was in the industry of hemp. Before there was one really legal here in America. Okay, so anyway, and then I got out. Oh no, real quick, I already realized I love food, and even the whole time I was selling weed, I love food, and I wanted to get restaurant jobs, but I like wasn't desperate because I was making a lot of money, so I was never like pursuing these jobs. But I went to apply and interviewed at like a lot of kitchens, including I don't know what did the Le Parc used to be?
Well,
It's been a lot of
for a
things.
while it was mix,
I
but
think it might have been Mix. I applied at Mix, and the guy was like, "How's your night skills?" I was like, they're okay, but I can get better." And he never
James
called
is
me back.
literally like one of my
Short,
favorite
tattooed
chefs.
guy. He
Um,
seemed really cool. He just was like, "You're not really."
I'll show you a picture later.
Okay,
But
so
if it was James, he's my favorite Frederick chef ever.
that's awesome. So yeah, like I never got a food job. Anyway, got locked up. Kind of like bullied, not bullied, but I just like was persistent. Got my way into the kitchen as a job. That's not that hard to do, but you're washing dishes. And then I was really persistent. I was like, let me cook, let me cook, let me cook. So finally, other people who didn't care were just like, let him cook. Like, I'll step down and wash dishes. Like, just let him cook. So I did, and I did that for like 6 months. And cooking for like 400 or 500 people. It's weird to say, but I really enjoyed myself doing that. Like, I mean, it also gives you something to do when you're otherwise just like bored and depressed. So anyway, that was kind of my introduction, really, really into like cooking for people for money, even though I wasn't getting paid.
That's yeah. I mean, you
I
gotta do
got
something,
days, I
right?
got good days. That's what you call it. Okay, so anyway, and then my career direction when I came out, first job, I was in like the back of a warehouse for like a couple months, and then they opened up a new Black Hog, which is a barbecue spot in Frederick. They were opening a new Black Hog right next to this place that I was working, which I won't name because they're a huge brand. Um, and I applied there, and I got the job to be a smoker. Got up 6 days a week, was at work 5:30 in the morning, smoking meat. I didn't even eat that much meat, but making sauces. Like I had a lot of responsibility. I super enjoyed it. And coming out of the situation I was in, it was really nice to get responsibility and feel like I was like stepping up. Like I had a lot of like motivational factors other than that too. So I was also working at a tree nursery, um, because that was kind of part time being a smoker. I wouldn't cut my beard, so they wouldn't give me any floor hours. So like as soon as they opened, I basically had to leave.
That's amazing. And I didn't know any of this. This is great. You know, I've known you for over a year, and I had no idea you worked at Black Hawk.
Yeah, for over a year. It was pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed it. And contrary to like what some people say, if you work hard and aren't like a punk, uh, Mike will treat you pretty well. I don't know.
Good to know.
He was an asshole to me sometimes, but it's like I can take that. So
I
not a
mean,
big deal.
yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, hopefully the days that you're not an asshole outnumber the days that you are, right?
Yeah, I definitely took some good like pointers, maybe life skills from him. Business, I don't know. But anyway, so Black Hog, and then I was like, screw this, I'm moving to Baltimore. I already knew I was gonna open a pizza operation because we were throwing shows and I was making pizza for these shows. We were giving away free pizza, so that just kind of I caught the bug and I wanted to make better pizza. So I was already planning sort of what I wanted to do with that. So I left Frederick, went down to Baltimore, was working at an independent movie theater down there as a manager, and that was a really cool experience. Definitely not in food, but there was a cool little restaurant next door, so I was kind of like in proximity, like watching them all the time and doing my little manager thing. Continuing to make pizza at these shows, which were all in Baltimore, and then, and this is where I met my future wife and partner. Um, and then I took a job that paid a little better and treated me a little better. Maybe not in the long run, but it's seemingly so. Installing solar on roofs. And at this point, I had already started my business. Most of my business was in Frederick because this is where I'm from. So it just made more sense. And we also had a baby. So it was like, okay, get a job in Frederick, do your business in Frederick, move your family back to Frederick. So this is it. And I had already started my business. And the breaking point was me really just getting tired of like this mundane, like I had moved from installing solar to managing the warehouse and loading up all the jobs and ordering all the equipment and supplies and like have millions, maybe like in a month, like millions of dollars worth of stuff going through my hands. And like, they were just kind of being stingy and weird about it. I don't know. I just got tired of it.
I
I
need
just
solar.
got
I need.
sick,
I'm thinking
so
about getting
sick of
solar
it.
panels on my house. Can you help me out?
No, I'm over it. I can hook you up with it with the right people though. But yeah, so that point was just me. I was like burnt out and tired as shit. I was working solar in the day, and then like they were kind of flexible with me, so I would leave on the days that I had events and like stay up late and make dough days before, and I was just getting burned out and thought that I was ready to leave, even though I probably should have waited a little longer. So that's it. Maybe that was uneventful, but you have my story. That was my breaking point and my career path prior to my breaking point. So we'll get into it. The next question we're gonna ask all our guests as an intro is because this is Chefs Without Restaurants, is do you or did you ever have restaurant dreams, owning or just running?
Yeah, when I was younger, and by younger, I guess I mean culinary school. I think most people who go to culinary school think they're going to open a restaurant, right? And a lot of your classes are based around that. So
Mhm.
I was inspired by Emeril, right? Like I went to culinary school in '94. Emeril is a chef from Massachusetts, which is where I'm from. He went to Johnson Wales, which is where I went, and I really got into Creole Cajun cooking. So when I got in as a freshman, like that's what I thought I was going to do was open a Cajun restaurant. So when we had to design a restaurant, it was a Cajun restaurant. When we had to do a menu, it was a Cajun menu.
This is
And
awesome.
I did that for a couple years, I guess, when I was in school, and I got super into it. In fact, even when I was a senior, 4 years later, and we had to do an internship, I applied to do my internship at NOLA with Emeril, and I got through the interview process, and they offered me a job. But by job, I mean free internship without lodging, and I would have had to go down there and work for free and have to pay for housing for 3 months, and that wasn't an option for me. So
Super whack. This is really funny though. Like I'm learning things. We're probably learning things about each other that we never even knew before. Of course, we've only known each other for maybe a little over a year, but
No
this is
desire
just
to
really
own a
cool
restaurant ever, which
anymore.
is no, not at all. Like I don't have the money for that, and I don't really want to take on investors. And I'm sure this is going to be an interesting conversation somewhere down the line. If you're listening and you're an investor and you have a lot of money, I might reconsider that. But no, like I don't want to go open a brick and mortar place
Yeah.
downtown. For me, it's I'm kind of ADD and I like to change my menu all the time, so I could never open like just a pizza shop where it was
These
just
supper
pizza.
clubs. That
Yeah,
would be a cool thing. And you can run those like, uh, it's happening. It usually happens more so with people who have restaurants, it seems like, but um, or
and
like at
there's a lot of
breakfast joints or
I
whatever.
think
You
there's
have
a
those
lot of
little supper
legalities
clubs.
and challenges of supper clubs, which is like a whole separate
Well, I mean,
episode, right?
if you open it like a restaurant, but then only run it like a supper club, maybe a couple days a week or once a week, but
Yeah,
then you have huge costs for nothing. But
and
I'm gonna,
people don't like that. Like I love the idea. I was going to open a place and maybe call it like staff meal or something, where like if you're ever working in a restaurant, there's a staff meal every day, and it tends to be like really awesome food, just kind of made from whatever you have hanging around. I thought it'd be cool to open a place and just kind of cook whatever I have on hand and make what I want. But I don't think people would come to that.
you could only be open on Mondays for all the industry workers that need a
Amazing.
staff meal.
New pop up. We're going to do it every Monday. It's going to be called Staff Meal. We're going to do a
That's
pop
actually
up.
a really tight idea, and maybe we could do that at that brewery that we talked about earlier. You guys
Love
will
it.
hear about this later. Me and
Love
Chris
it.
are gonna talk off mic. So anyway, my restaurant dreams. I kind of like before I even knew what the food industry really was, like by working in it, I was like, oh, a restaurant, kind of that like dumb like dream. Probably the same as when you go to culinary school because you still don't know what it's like in culinary school. So, but I never went to culinary school. Actually, in high school, I took culinary classes, and shout out to Chef Charlie Zachman. He's the shit. He really inspired my whole uh, like I don't know. I guess in high school, he kind of like kept me inspired in the food world, and like I held that with me until now. So yeah, restaurant dreams for me. I just play with it all the time. Like it's not like I wouldn't open a restaurant, but I'm not really thinking about it. Like Chris said, if there's an investor out there, like I would definitely probably consider it. But I'm not trying to front any of those costs. You can take on all the costs, and I'll definitely share the profits with you. But you're not going to control me, and I'm not going to pay for shit.
Big plug for any investors out there looking to open a food business with us.
Big plug. All right, so we're gonna move on from this soon, but real quick, we'll try to keep this to like a couple sentences each. All right, how did you find your, or no, rather, how did your niche find you, and how did you translate that into a business?
Yeah, so I was working at a catering company part time after I got fired from a job, and they only wanted to do big events. But they'd have customers call and say, "Hey, do you want to come cater our anniversary dinner for just the two of us at our house?" And my bosses were not interested in doing that at all. And then finally they said, "Hey, that would be good PR for us. Chris, do you want to go do this? Make some extra money? You can keep all the money, just represent our business." And I did that for a little bit. And I thought, wow, this is kind of a thing. Like maybe I could start a catering company cooking for like 2 to 20 people. And that was outside Philadelphia. So when I moved to Frederick, we had the good triangulation of I could service the DC, Baltimore, Northern Virginia markets, as well as Gettysburg, West Virginia, and just thought, yeah, this is the place to kind of start that super niche, small dinner kind of catering-ish business. Though legally, I can't say I'm a caterer. I'm a personal chef.
I'm a caterer. You can you can cater through me. Okay, so anyway, my turn. How did your niche find you? How did that translate to a business? Like I mentioned before, I was throwing these shows, giving away free pizza with my friends. Um, for anybody out there who might know, it's Llama. Shouts to Llama and all my llamas. Uh, yeah. So it was like a multi-genre show, and the glue to all these like different scenes. We were trying to bring together a bunch of different scenes to make like one music scene. And we were like, well, the glue is gonna be pizza because who the fuck doesn't like pizza, right? And I was making that pizza. So like that's kind of how my niche found me. I've always loved pizza, good pizza. There was not a lot of good pizza in our area that I could find or was like super satisfied with. And yeah, I just was like, I'm gonna do this and do it better. And that's how my niche found me because I am pizza. And
And your free pizza, people don't know, not only is he Pizza Llama, but he also goes by Free Pizza.
yeah, that's like my person. That's my persona. Not I got my business and I got my persona. free pizza because like I'm free now and I gave away free pizza. That's how I started. So it's like, well, you know, free pizza also could be like, free.
But
What's a free piece of
he doesn't give
mind?
out free pizza at his food truck. You have to pay
Not
for the pizza.
usually. You have to pay for it, but I will give you free pizza in terms of like free pizza mind, free pizza advice, free pizza wisdom, free pizza go yourself. It's like I'm just kidding. Excuse me for all you youngins out there listening. Tell your mom I said sorry. Anyway, yeah, that translated into business for me because I was like, yo, I can make money off this and give the world better pizza. All right, so that was pretty fun. We're gonna take a break now, and we'll be back shortly to continue this podcast. Thank you. Cut that. Thank you. All right, we're back. And the next section that we'll be getting into, we're actually not even going to get into today because, for the sake of time, we're already at like 40 minutes. And, this one was more to get to know us. And I think the next section it's called the deep end. It's kind of like a deep dive, free form, open ended questions and discussion type forum where, kind of might change depending on the guests we have. We have a lot of different things that we want to talk about, and we're just kind of just going to wait until we get the right guest on to talk about those topics and just let it be natural and flow as far as our discussion goes. We want this to be of value and for people to learn something. So a lot of times we might just let our guests kind of like control that narrative for this section. So I look forward to doing the deep end with a lot of people. We decided not to do it because of time and because you guys are going to hear us go on and on about all this shit with other guests anyway.
Sounds good. So what are we gonna do now?
So now we're going to break into the third and final part of our podcast in the long format, and it's sort of like a rapid fire round, but everybody does rapid fire, and I want to call it word vomit.
Right on.
So basically, what it is we're just gonna throw out a couple. We're throwing out basically questions and try to answer them in one word or,
2 words maybe?
no, maybe 2 words, 3 words, like a sentence. If you start going on, I'm gonna shut you up. Okay, and do the same for me. One word. Just try to answer it in one word. Vomit. One vomit. Just if you have to take a breath, stop right there. This is word vomit. This isn't like think about it and breathe. Okay. All right. So how this is going to work, because both of us, is I'm just going to throw it out there. You're going to answer, and then I'll follow up with mine as fast as I
Okay.
can. So, okay, word vomit. Ding, ding. We got to get some sound effects on here. Here we go. Favorite tool in the kitchen, Chris? What is it?
Microplane.
I like spoons. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Ooh, Vitamix.
Yeah, you can't change it. You like microplanes. I love microplanes, actually. I used lame cheese graters for a long time, and then my friend was like, "Get a microplane." I got it. It's like amazed. So anyway, next question. See, we already took too long. Favorite food to eat?
Tacos.
Waffles and pizza. If you had the money, who's the first employee you would hire?
Ooh, you. I don't know.
Or maybe a better question is, if you had the money, what is the first employee you would hire?
I would hire someone, an admin person.
I would hire a chef so that I don't have to do all the cooking and working behind the scenes. So, yeah, I would do the admin, which I do. This isn't as rapid as I thought it would be. All right, favorite chef?
Matt Jennings.
I didn't even think about this one. Um, Hold on, wait a second. My favorite chef. Fuck, I'm drawing a blank.
Really, you asked the question and you didn't even know the
I
answer
didn't think about it.
for your own
I
word
don't
vomit.
even think about chefs that much, honestly. I don't know if this is my favorite, but I'm just gonna shout out the first one that came to my head because I think he's pretty eccentric and awesome, and he's a pizza guy too. His name's Chris Bianco. Cool cookbook.
I've
Check
been
it out.
I've been
It's
to
called
his place
Bianco.
like way
Oh, you
back.
have?
Yeah, like way back in like '99.
That's awesome. I just really like how he's like all about like awesome ingredients, fresh ingredients, local ingredients, and he makes great pizza. Apparently, never tried it. All right, moving on. Is your cooking art or science?
Both, but I'm going to lean more towards art.
Pizza's art, but dough is science. Favorite digital tool or resource for your work?
Uh, Anything marketing wise, Instagram's awesome.
I like Instagram too. I think that's my favorite. Best marketing platform.
So then I'll say Instagram, and I'll go back and say that Canva, I guess, would then be the best tool to get things done.
Okay, that's good. Yep, I use Canva too. Probably not as much as I should, but I'm just gonna go with Instagram for both because I'm a stupid millennial and I just spend all my time on Instagram consuming. So anyway, all right. Next question. Favorite culinary resource?
Besides Chefs Without Restaurants and the website Perfect Little Bites.
You can you can use those if you want.
The Serious Eats website, specifically the Food Lab section by Kenji.
You talk about it all the time. I should because seriously, it's tight. From what I've seen, my favorite culinary resource it's not necessarily a culinary resource, but it's like a food industry resource. It's another podcast called Chefs Without Restaurants. Shout out to Eric Cacciatore. That's probably my favorite resource for like, you know, that. If we get okay, so this isn't word vomit. I'm breaking my own rules. But as far as like a culinary resource, for me, because I'm a pizza guy, I think Pizza Today is probably my favorite.
Back up. I think you said your favorite resource was Chefs Without Restaurants. What's the name of that podcast again?
Oh, Restaurant Unstoppable.
You did not say that. See, it came right out. You said Chefs Without Restaurants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all right. So I have 3 answers for that, y'all. My favorite culinary resources in order are Chefs Without Restaurants, Restaurant Unstoppable podcast by Eric Cacciatore, and Pizza Today magazine.
Right on.
All right. How do you decompress?
Watching movies that I love. And they're usually stuff that my wife doesn't like. So, like, I'll just watch a horror film at like 10 in the morning after everyone's left the house.
All right. This is word vomit. That is too long.
Movies.
All right, good. Good answer. I go hiking with my daughter or by myself. I like to go for hikes. And why don't you quit? Why don't you quit?
I need income and I don't know what else I do, and I love this.
Pizza in Frederick sucks. I'm trying to be the best ever. I am the best ever, but I just have to like let everybody know that. All right, well, that's pretty much it. We went through all of our sections, sort of, and I think this was a nice little conversation me and Chris had and a cool first podcast. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Maybe you took something from it or learned something. You at least learned a lot about us. We learned more about each other that we didn't know, which was really cool. And I can't wait to give you guys some really cool guests on here and get better at this whole podcasting thing. Maybe we'll stick with it when everybody else is like, well, podcasting is I'm over it because it's like a trend right now.
It's definitely a trend.
Yeah.
So share this with everyone. As of right now, we're already on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn. We should be on iHeartRadio soon. I'd love to hear where you guys are listening, but wherever it is, reviews would be awesome. But telling everyone about this podcast is what we'd really love.
Tell all your food industry friends about the podcast. And yeah, give us a review, or if you don't want to give a review it in the messages. Send us a message. But definitely give us a review. I don't even care if it's a bad review. Give us a 1-star review. Go on Yelp and give me a 1-star review for a podcast that sucks.
Don't give me a 1-star review on Yelp.
All right, yeah, I would prefer not, but I mean, it's whatever. I don't care. Anyway, let's drop our names.
Chris Spear.
And your Instagram handle.
Oh, yeah. So everywhere, if you were to Google Chefs Without Restaurants or Perfect Little Bites, so Instagram is Perfect Little Bites and Chefs Without Restaurants. We have Facebook public pages for both, facebook.com/Perfect Little Bites or /Chefs Without Restaurants. Really quick plug, we have a Chefs Without Restaurants group. So it's facebook.com/groups/Chefs Without Restaurants. You just need approval. I just want to know why you want to join the group, and I usually approve everyone.
Easy enough. You can find my business, just search Pizza Llama on Google or anything, and you'll see a little llama flame logo in red. And that's us, Pizza Llama, or at underscore Pizza Llama on Instagram. My personal is at FreePZA, Free Pizza, PZA, all right? And that's me, Andrew. So I guess that's it. Any shout outs you want to give?
No, no. Oh, yeah. A quick shout out. I mean, Sham, my buddy who used to have a podcast here in Frederick, gave us these really cool mics to use. So if you're listening, and I hope you're listening, thanks so much. These microphones, and he recommended using Audacity to do the recording. So yeah, I have a lot of friends who are doing the podcast thing or have done the podcast thing, and they've been really great about getting us started. So
And
yeah,
shout out to you listeners, everybody who's listening to this episode. You are the first ever. So shout out to you for listening to this podcast. We're really here to like hit you guys with some value. We're both fans of the
yeah.
GV. So I didn't even have to. I didn't even have to mention that, but I just want to say like we're doing this to give back something. So
Super excited. I think it's going to be a great show, and we will talk to you soon.
peace.
Peace.